Ukrainian 24th Brigade intercepted and counterattacked Russian troops near Chasiv Yar. In the area of responsibility of the 24th Separate Mechanized Brigade, named after King Danylo, Russian forces attempted to break through Ukrainian defensive positions using airborne fighting vehicle (BMD), a Tigr armored vehicle, and motorcycles. The brigade released footage of the battle, showing the enemy assault in real time. Thanks to the efforts of the brigade's Royal Warriors and supporting units, the enemy attack was repelled. Several Russian vehicles were destroyed while advancing. Destroyed: a BMD with infantry, a Tigr armored vehicle, and 6 assault troops on motorcycles. The defense of Chasiv Yar continues, the brigade reported. Earlier, Defense Express reported that Ukraine's Defense Intelligence eliminated 4 Russian officers from the notorious Ammat unit in a 2-stage explosion. The initial blast was followed by a secondary detonation, triggered by the detonation of the unit's own ammunition. Additionally, Defense Express previously reported that Group 13, a special unit within Ukraine's Defense Intelligence, has destroyed Russian ships, vessels, aircraft, and helicopters worth over $500 million using Magura maritime drones. The unit is now deploying the upgraded Magura V7, featuring expanded capabilities for continued operations. Meanwhile, the continued Ukrainian advance would result in the complete elimination of the Russian pincer, which is why the Russian forces are doing everything they can to preserve it at any cost, throwing endless waves of meat wave assaults at the Ukrainian lines. This way, the Russian commanders hope to overwhelm the Ukrainian forces with sheer numbers, hoping Ukrainians would be forced on the defensive and cease their offensive efforts on the western flank of Pokrovsk. However, the Russians had already exhausted their reserves in this area as they ran out of steam for continued assaults. To solve this, Russian commanders redeployed forces from other sectors of the front, allowing them to fulfill their manpower needs for the meat wave assaults. However, they could not solve the problem of a shortage in armored vehicles, as the issue was gripping Russians all over the front line in Ukraine. As you might remember, the lack of armored vehicles forced Russians to use civilian cars and pickup trucks for the assaults instead. With the problem solved in the eyes of the Russian High Command, Russian forces increased the intensity of their attacks to the same level of intensity as during their initial attempt to take Pokrovsk into a pincer. However, contrary to how Russians gained significant ground here during that time, they barely made any advancements at all. Zooming into Uspanivka to use as an example, Ukrainians used drones to scatter landmines across the main hardened road Russians used. Additionally, Ukrainian drone operators targeted any Russian vehicle moving into the settlement, as well as any Russian soldiers that managed to dismount and try to move into the buildings. This way, a single Ukrainian drone team reported they were eliminating up to 20 Russian soldiers a day, further underscoring the high casualty rate of Russian tactics. The geolocated combat footage reveals how periodic heavy rain made the unmaintained frontline roads extremely slippery, causing one driver to lose control of the vehicle and drive straight into a landmine placed on the side of the road. Additional footage shows how Russians drove one banka van up to Uspanivka, which had already been detected on the approaches by a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone. This allowed the Ukrainian fighters in the settlement to quickly leave their concealed positions and set up a machine gun to meet the Russian assault head-on. Ukrainian soldiers opened fire on the vehicle, which provided zero protection for the Russian soldiers crammed inside, as the bullets tore through the vehicle. After this, the Ukrainian fighters quickly and safely returned to their concealed positions, ready to repulse the next Russian car assault. Aftermath footage shows how the Ukrainian machine gun had utterly devastated the Russian van, igniting the exposed fuel tank, leaving the vehicle a burning wreck as fallen Russian soldiers lay around it, most of whom did not even make it off. The footage also shows a high number of destroyed Russian civilian cars scattered in front of the town, signaling that Russians continue to launch assaults with the same tactic, despite failing time and time again.
Давай, давай еще одну. Или спорда въебни туда.